Morning, everyone. It's a great day for all of us. We are having our 28th webinar today. Once again, I welcome all the participants and our expert panelists for this webinar on CA Regulation 2023. First of all, I would like to say a few words about our NFE activities. Then we will go straight away into the webinar. I will share the screen. Okay. Okay, thank you, Lakshmi. So we NFE are creating awareness on electrical safety, and we are just a 1.5-year-old child, and we have been spreading the awareness program either through the direct physical workshops across the country, through the whole length and breadth of the country, and also we are having webinar. This is our 28th webinar. So we have a lot of webinars recently concluded. Now this present webinar will be addressing on CA Regulation 2023, and it will be a repeat program, of course, but understanding the CA regulations and its implications on electrical safety will be greatly dealt with by our expert panelists. We have today our panelists. I would like to introduce myself. I'm Appavu, General Secretary of NFES, and we have with us today Mr. Bhushan Mankam. He is our Regional Director, Mumbai Region. He is having 26 years of experience. He is associating with the Electrical Inspectorate wing of Government of Maharashtra. He was busy during the COVID period, especially visiting all the hospitals, and he has multiple activities. He conducted sessions on discoms and over 100 schools. So we welcome you, Mr. Bhushanji. Next, our speaker is Mr. Hemant Salih, who would not require any introduction. Of course, he is having a very rich experience of more than 40 years. He retired from Electrical Inspectorate wing as well as a PWD. In those areas, he actually worked, executed projects, and he also implemented electrical safety measures as electrical inspectors as well as the electrical engineer PWD in Mumbai, in Maharashtra. So he has been contributing continuously in the development of regulations, rules for the accidents and Electricity Duty Act. He is coordinating with the Maharashtra government still after the retirement, especially in the area of control regulations for building safety against man-made disasters. And he is still actively contributing his technical expertise to the in the BS committees, various committees he is there. NBC, ETD 20 and ETD 14 are the important areas where he is giving expertise opinion and doing things. He is presently also a technical advisor to the Ministry of Roads, Highways and Transport, Government of India. He takes lecture. He finds pleasure in taking lecture, workshop for various organizations. Then we have our Mr. Manu Varki. He is a Master of Engineering from IISc Bangalore. Currently, he is working as an executive engineer and senior manager electrical at CPWD Palakkad. He involved in the construction work of main campus at IIT Palakkad, various prestigious institutions like JIPMER, Pondicherry, and NIT Calicut. Also, he is actively participating in the participated in the past years in Andaman Nicobar Islands and in Pondicherry University. He has done a lot on behalf of CPWD in this region, and he has a very knowledgeable thing on software systems. I came to understand that he can be utilized for open source contributions. He has several open source contributions of electrical system analysis software for LV and MV medical distribution, electrical distribution. He is also having his own software and author and a maintainer of software costing on costing and quantifying quantity estimates of civil as well as electrical works. We welcome you, Mr. Manu, sir. And we have Mr. Abhijit Limai. Recently, he stood first in the CESE examinations conducted by the Maharashtra CEG department. He is currently he is a graduate from VNIT Nagpur in 2008, and he has done his PG diploma in Wellinger 2018. He is also a certified energy auditor. Also, he is a consultant at VL Engineering presently. Yes, previously he was there in Siemens and Amara Power System, Gagger India. He runs a blog as well as awareness program on safe and efficient selection of products. So with this, I would like to go straight away into the regulation and panel discussion. Start with, we will have a overview on the electrical hazards that is occurring in our country. We are all aware that we have been losing at least more than 10 to 15,000 electrocutions in our country, as well as another 10,000 fires, and moreover, natural lightning, we lose 8,000 people. So this is the ever perennially it is happening year by year. So in order to address these issues, we NFE have started a strong network. With this short period of time, we had a very good support from participants. Nearly 20,000 participants have benefited from our direct and webinar sessions. We welcome you all for your support. And to have an overview, I would like to invite Mr. Shaliji. Shaliji, sir, please. Mr. Shaliji, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Am I
sir.
audible? Fine.
Yes, yes.
Welcome you, sir. To start with, to have an overview, I would like to hear your words and the importance of Electricity Act, how it has been enacted, and what are the important provisions, and how the regulatory body have been instituted. These are things we want to learn from you today, sir, because you are an active person, those formulations from the initial stages. So I request you to put your views in your
Thank you,
points.
sir. Thank you very much,
Thank
sir. So we'll just go through a few important sections which directly relate with the electrical safety and which directly relate with the administrators who enforce electrical safety in government, semi-governments also. So these are the few sections. First important section is section number 53.
Please make it full screen, please. Full screen, please.
Yeah. So this is section number 53. It tells us about the provisions relating to electrical safety and electrical supply. The main points which are included in this section are protecting public from dangers arising out of electricity, eliminating risk of injury to persons and damage to the property, and specifying action to reduce the risk. So this is a very important section for us, which takes care about electrical safety. Second is section 70. It tells about the Constitution of Central Electricity Authority. And section 73 gives the functions and duties of the authority. Under this section, it has been mentioned that they should specify the technical standards for construction of electrical plant. They should specify safety requirement for the construction and operation. Next comes the section number 146. It tells us about the punishment for non-compliance of orders or directions. We'll just go shortly through this section, what it is telling us. See, it is mentioned that whoever fails to comply with any order or direction given under this act within such time as may be specified in the said order or direction or contravenes or attempts or abates the contravention of any provision. See, these three words are very important: contravenes or attempts or abates. All these three words are important, and it involves all the persons who are directly or indirectly associated with the electrical work. So if they contravenes any rules or regulations, see, these are two words are again important: rules and regulation. Both things are included in this. If they contravenes rules or regulations made thereunder, shall be punishable with imprisonment or with fine. So this is the section which tells us about if we contravene with any rule or regulations made under this act, that will be punishable thing. The second section is about the offenses by companies. Actually, this section tells us about the responsibility, who could be held responsible. Here you will find section 14 tells where an offense has been committed by a company. Every person who at the time of offense was committed was in charge and was responsible for the conduct of business of the company, as well as the company shall be deemed to be guilty. So the responsibility here goes to the top management system, which has been clearly mentioned here. It is not that if fireman makes any mistake, that only he will be held responsible. The top officials will also be held responsible. There is one proviso in this section, which is sort of escape from this obligation. Nothing contained in this subsection shall render any such persons liable if he proves that the offense was committed without his knowledge and he exercised all due diligence. If he can prove that he had exercised all due diligence, then the liability of such offense may not come on him. Again, this section elaborates further where an offense has been committed by a company with consent or connivance, or it is attributable to any neglect on the part of director, management, secretary, or any other officer. So director, manager, secretary, or any officer shall also deemed to be guilty. So this is very much clear on whom the blame should go. Next section important is abatement. Abatement is a sort of helping to the offense directly or indirectly. I will give you one example. Suppose there is a fire accident in a building where the fire, there was no electrical shaft in the building. So provision of electrical shaft in the building is the responsibility of the architect. As per this electricity law, it is mandatory. If he doesn't make provision in the building for the electrical shaft, that is sort of abatement, that is helping an offense to happen. So many accidents we hear about the electrical fire occurs within the electrical shaft and it passes from lower floor to upper floor. And so for that, so many provisions have been made in the electricity regulation that it should be sealed at every floor level and what should be the fire resistance about minimum 2 hours, that has been clearly mentioned here. So this is one of the important requirements which relates with the architect and which relates with the civil contractor also, because the fire resistance which is required as per the law has to be, the material which is using should be of that quality. Section 151 and 151A. This is again an important section. Why I will tell you what it tells. See, section 151 tells us about the cognizance of offences. No court shall take cognizance of an offence punishable under this act except upon a complaint in writing made by appropriate government or appropriate commission or any of their authorized person authorized by them, or the chief electrical inspector or electrical inspector or the licensee generating company. So here you will see there are limitations. A common person cannot go into the court and lodge any complaint. So only the electrical experts in this regard have authority to lodge the complaint. So limit again here the the administration of law and enforcement of law through these provisions is the responsibility of these persons which have been clearly mentioned in the section 151. Cognizance of offences. Who can take the court will not take any cognizance if any complaint has been made by person any other than these three. So there was one amendment in 2007. Amongst these 4-5 persons and authorities, they included police department also. So this amendment came in 2007. It appeared as section 151A. One important next section is the inquiry of accident and report. It is the responsibility of the electrical inspector to find the cause of accident affecting the safety and manner and the extent to which the provisions of this act, rules, regulations have been complied with. This indirectly tells if there is any contamination with the rules or regulations that he has to find out and report. Section 152 is regarding the appointment of chief electrical inspector and electrical inspector to perform powers and functions as prescribed by the appropriate government. Here, if you will see, the powers and functions to prescribed by the government is clearly mentioned in section 176 with the authority given to the central government to make rules in accordance with that. Section 180 gives the powers to state government to make rules for that. But in this section 180, there is no clarity whether they should make the rules about powers and functions. Such clause which is included in section 170 is not clearly there. But of course, we can still use the section 180 under the subpart O of that section, where any other requirement as per section they have included. Section 177 gives powers to the authority to make the regulation. This authority is a central electricity authority which are empowered to make the regulations, suitable measures relating to safety and electricity supply. As per Section 53, they have been authorized to make technical standards for electrical plants and lines. So this was something about the um, electricity Act and related sections to all of us. Next comes regulation number 14. This regulation number 14, a major change has occurred in this regulation in the publication of CA regulations in June 23. There was one provision. So this is the regulation number 14, which tells us, actually this regulation 14 is a synopsis of total Central City Authority regulations. It has been given in very few words what is meant by CASFT regulations. Here, the important thing which is included, the installation shall be constructed, installed, protected, worked, and maintained in such a manner to ensure safety to human beings and animal and property. And for this, this sub-regulation 2 tells us the same as otherwise provided in this regulation, the relevant standards, including National Electrical Code and National Building Code, shall be followed to carry out the purpose of these regulations. See, previously there was no inclusion of National Building Code, but in this regulation they have included National Building Code. So, abiding by the provisions given in the National Building Code has also become now mandatory. And one more thing again added here is, and where the relevant Indian standards are not available, international standards shall be followed. So, following the standards and code has been made mandatory. This shall word is there. If you will see, the shall word previously it was may be followed. So maybe was giving some, it was not making it mandatory for the person to follow that. This is the option whether to follow or not the standards and regulations. But this shall has word change all scenario, and all the regulations and the provisions under the standard have now become mandatory. And if you don't follow them, we have just seen this, what the regulation, section 146 of the Electricity Act tells us. If you don't follow it, you make many contravention, that will be punishable things.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Jolly. It's a very good input and an introduction for the further discussion. We will come to you again.
Yeah.
So, as of now, we can infer that the provisions contained in the Act as well as the newly enacted notified regulations are so stringent that there's a legal teeth in it. But we will go further discussion how these can be implemented and what are the other provisions that is still we have to take into account. Manuji, this is the regulation that I want you to elaborate for the benefit of audience regarding testing at consumer premises, especially regulation 33.5. Please go ahead.
Yes. Under this regulation, it makes it mandatory for the supplier to conduct a test of the consumer's installation before it is getting connected to his network. Before this regulation, certain things are implied in this. First, under regulation 31, this installation should have been installed by a licensed electrical contractor under the supervision of a person holding a supervisory license and executed by a wireman holding a wireman permit issued by the state government. After installation, this installation has to be verified, inspected and verified either by the consumer himself if it is below the notified voltage or by an electrical inspector. So once the electrical inspector has given us energization approval and consumer has applied to the supplier to get a supply from the supplier, this regulation 33 comes into picture.
Yes. Yes. So regulation 33, despite the certificates, everything issued by the authorities, still the supplier has a provision to stop connection, to refuse to connect. He can still refuse. That's what you want. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your insight. So that requires the authority for the supplier just because of lapses during any testing and other things. Still, the final authority will be in the hand of supplier. still he can refuse. That is what he wants.
Yes,
So,
actually, one more thing is there in this. Under Schedule 3 is mentioned. The supplier should record his results in Schedule 3. If you go through Schedule 3, you see that he has to verify all the verifications that is previously
yes,
done by
I will come to that,
yes,
sir.
yes,
Manoj, I will come to that.
yes, yes,
because
yes, yes.
I will come to that specific point
Yes,
afterwards.
yes.
Now, I would, because you are an expert, as we have seen in many input you have given on regulation 18, because this is the only regulation what we see in our country is still uncompliant. So
Yes,
that
yes.
means the earth day terminal and consumer premises. Just please put your opinion on this,
Yes, yes, yes,
whether this can be complied or what
Yes,
has to do.
yes,
And
yes.
subsequent panels will also throw some light on this, because it's a challenging issue in our country. Please
Yes, yes.
put light on.
Yes, sir. This under Regulation 18, it makes it mandatory for the supplier to provide an earth terminal at the consumer premise. If it is a single phase consumer, the consumer is under no obligation to provide an additional earth terminal. But in the case of a three phase consumer, he has to provide an additional earth terminal, which he has to link with the earth terminal provided by the supplier. So an earth terminal in this regard means a multiple earth neutral terminal, earth derived from a multiple earth neutral terminal. If you read this in line with other regulations in the other CA regulations.
Thank you.
Yes, yes.
Thank you, Maniji. So this is the thing we are missing. Either the consumer is reluctant to provide his protective earth terminal at the suppliers earth neutral, we call it.
Yes, yes.
Suitable earth terminal in observed position near the point of consumption of supply. So the simple thing, consumer has to connect it, and he has to provide one more earth also at the point of. So
And that is only mandatory in case he is a three phase consumer above 250 volt. Yes.
Yes. So the intention could be by providing all such earth connections, there could be a very good interconnection. That is the interconnection of earthing conductors of all the consumers' premise. For example, a
Yes.
single 250 kV transformer of supplier can have service connection to hundreds of consumers.
Yes,
If
yes.
there are hundreds of equipotential bonding and protective earth terminals connected, then it will become a very strong grid. We have a strong grid through the supply conductor, but we fail to have a strong grid with the earth naturally available earth.
Yes, yes. This can also, since in addition to the earthing at the transformer neutral and multiple earthing along the distribution line.
Yes.
And if consumer earthing is also part of the network, means the chances of a broken neutral will be reduced to a very minimal. Or voltage associated to that can be reduced to a bare minimum. I think that is the intention of the regulation.
Yes,
And,
actually, regulation intention is a noble thing, and this specific regulation is existing over a period of 100 years. We are celebrating 100th year of this particular regulation, but we are unable to achieve it. Anyhow, I will come to this point again after posing some discussion with the other panelists on the same nature of how this point can be addressed. Now, I will ask Mr. Abhijit ji, please come. I would like to know from you, because you have appeared for the CAC examination and stood first in the. It's a very tough job recollecting the theoretical part. So, first of all, you have a very good basic theoretical experience on this. So, I would like to know from regulation 45, I will come to the regulation 45, 36, 32, everything after. Now, I will restrict to the testing, because you have to have a chain of regulation 18, how it can be answered. That's the first thing that we have to address today. So, regulation 45.5, it says what? Regulation 45.5, what is the responsibility of the consumer something, and what is the relations with the contractor, and what are the street boxes. So these things I would like to have your opinion. First of all, please explain about. I will go to regulation 45. Please put your expert opinion on this regulation 45.
So when it comes to this regulation, it's quite a beautiful provision. So it gives you power to the consumer for a kind of self certification. So recently we have had a lot of developments in this where the consumer for is able to self certify. And if you go to also the regulation 6, which empowers CACs to do this, so this inspection for this and the consumer can be aided in this by a chartered safety engineer. Now there is a period that from the date of installation or from let's say the date of charging, within 6 months you have to get this self certification report. So there are multiple provisions related to it, and what that does is it reduces the job of an electrical inspector to some extent, because it's not possible for the electrical inspector to go everywhere
I will,
and
no,
visit
Manu,
all the institutions.
Abhijit ji, I will
Yes.
come to this point afterwards, but I would
Okay.
like to know from you, regulation 43,
Okay.
I will go to that 43 because
I'll go to
we have some other expert to explain these things.
no
I will
problem.
go to regulation 43, uh, where there is a specific point of earth loop impedance and earth resistance. Regulation 43 to
I think that it might be in
43,
the
10,
sub-regulation
43,
9.
9.
So
Yes,
maybe sub-regulation 9, I think.
yes,
That's the
43, 9. Yes.
So typically, when we talk about the sub-regulation 9, it specifically talks about equipotential bonding. Now, what is equipotential bonding? I think there has been a lot of deliberation on it, but very important part we need to understand about the equipotential bonding part is that there has to be a one common earthing grid on the consumer premises. So you cannot have different grid, different earthing grid for let's say electronic, or a different earthing grid for LAs. So everything has to be on a common earthing grid. Another development is the inclusion of fault loop impedance. Now, just I think before this we were talking about regulation 18, where it is mandatory for the supply agency to have its own earth terminal. So the earlier we were using the terminology of earth resistance. However, the earth resistance tends to get affected also by how strong the supplier's earth grid is. So earth resistance kind of becomes the responsibility of the supplier, wherein when we talk about fault loop impedance, it is something that is within the consumer premises, and it is something that is can be calculated by the consumer. Another aspect what we need to understand about fault loop impedance is just by knowing the value, we cannot attribute it to a particular value, let's say 5 ohm or 1 ohm or maybe less or more than that. But fault loop impedance is a value which needs to be measured, and your protection system needs to be calibrated for an automatic disconnection. Just to take an example, if we do a fault loop impedance measurement, we arrive at a value of let's say 5 ohm, and we are looking at the system to trip at a single phase earth fault. So we should have a setting which is less than 46 ampere, because that would be the kind of fault current what we'll be getting. So the provision for fault, just because there is a provision for fault loop impedance and you measure a fault loop impedance, things don't stop at that. You have to make sure your settings are there to ensure automatic disconnection within the stipulated time. And
So,
again, another aspect is that these entire systems need to be strongly bonded. So you cannot have different earthings for all of them. So once you have a common grid, you will also be able to achieve a good fault loop impedance with this. This is
fine.
predominantly what I'll say.
So what we can infer is, while earth fault loop impedance is the responsibility of the consumer,
Consumer, yeah.
it is pertaining to the consumer premises.
Yes.
Okay. Then there is one more regulation under 10, where the earthing system belonging to the supplier shall be tested for resistance. So we can infer that earth resistance is supplied to the supplier and
Yeah, it
earth
is affected.
loop impedance is supplied to the consumer. So
Yes. Yes.
what we can know from these regulation 18 and 43, 9 and 10, as well as 45, 5. So these are all the things which can educate a consumer. You have to depend on the supplier's network, whether they have PME system or whether they have interconnected body and neutral of transformer. The thing is, by simply having a earth fault loop impedance test, you can ascertain whether they have a very good earthing system, PME system, or whether they have interconnected. So suppose, as you said, if the values are limited, then you can infer that it is a TNS system and a PME system up to the consumer premises, and you have a very good TNS system. In the absence of such a earth loop impedance value that could fall beyond the permissible limits prescribed by the standards, you can infer the system is not conducive to have your terminal connected. So this is an important area that I can, what you experts have given now, regulation 18 and regulation 43, 9 sub-regulation, this is B, 43, 9B and 910. These are all contributing to the hazards, minimization of hazards occurring in our country, whether it be a fire or it be a electrocution to the domestic premises or the poor designing without taking into account of the asphalt loop impedance. So these are the factors that we can. Thank you, Mr. Abhijit and Manu, for enlightening this forum. You first ascertain whether your system can answer the earth loop impedance permissible value by having a conducting a test that includes the supply transformer, PME, and your own system. Then you ascertain whether to connect or adapt a TNS or TT system. So in fact, in the final objective is to have a TNS system at the all consumer premises to have your equipment protected and avoid any over voltage by providing a equipotential bonding. So this is the mantra what we have learned from Manu and Abhijit. Now I will go to Mr. Bhushanji. You are associating with the inspectorate and the hospital locations everywhere. I want to know from you, sir, the one regulation. I am particular about the regulation 45 and regulation 31. Mr. Bhushan, can you please say a few words about these important two regulations, 31 and 45, regarding contractors and responsibility of owners?
Right. Thank you, sir. Before I can just jump into the particular regulations that you have highlighted for me, the one thing I just want to talk about is this complete CEA regulation 2023 has some important words which are really not understood by the electrical fraternity and even the common citizens, those are associated with electricity. What are those important words? They are mentioned in the regulation, the starting itself. Designated person, testing, chartered electrical safety engineers, and the owner of the installation, the supplier, the distribution system authority, and even the licensed electrical contractors. All the system is to follow these regulations and the NBC standards and get the electrical installation to the safest possible or the safe level. And if it has not been done, then it has to be punishable as explained by the Sali sir in his presentation. So this designated persons and the particular installation and its testing are the key highlights. Coming with that point, regulation 45.5 is talking about the approval by electrical inspector and self certification. Again, the chartered electrical safety engineer, CAC, and even the contractor's role comes in picture with this regulation. It states that the owner of the installation of voltage above notified voltage before making an application to electrical inspector, or if the installation has an additional provision of electrical arrangement, every circuit of this installation, which is above 650 volt, it is going to get energized. Every circuit of this installation and the addition that whatever we have done other than overhead lines must be tested to withstand the application's testing voltage set out in regulation 48. So we have interlinking of regulations also when you come in picture to implement the CE regulation. So in this case, 45 and 48 are interlinked. So in 48, the detailed elaboration of what to be tested, where to be tested and how to be tested. The testing, operation and maintenance of the electrical installation is mentioned in regulation 48. So as I was saying, these two regulations are interlinked. So what kind of type test you are going to do, what kind of routine test are one has to be performed, and the application tests that are required. That detailed elaboration is there in 48. I think 9 or
Okay.
10 sub regulations are there. So detailing is there. So it's a interlinked regulation that you can say, and you can find this interlinking of regulation in most of the regulation. It may be earthing system or it may be testing of the installation, both ways. Sir, please go ahead. Yeah. And the
Yes.
second, I think you highlighted about 31.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
that one.
So 31 gives you the role of the owner. As I was mentioning, the words are important. The consumer, owner, occupier, electrical contractor, electrical workman, and the supplier. So here the designated person as well as the person who is going to work on this installation, that is the key person who has to see that the no electrical installation is maintained or installed without having a proper certified person. It may be a licensed contractor by a government body, it may be supervisor. So that detailing has been given in the first sub-regulation of 31. And in second part of this regulation, we are talking that the no electrical installation work which has been carried out in contravention to this sub-regulation 1 shall either be energized and connected to supply. So this ensuring that the work has been carried out by licensed person has to be done by the inspectorate authority of each state, and even the supplier companies or the discom companies, those are in picture. So this
Okay,
is a
thank you, Mr. Bhushan. You have explained
Thank you,
about the responsibility of licensed contractor. Without employing a licensed contractor, if you undertake any job, whether it is a new or additional alteration to the existing installation, it will be illegal. So thank you for your valuable input. Now I will go to Mr. Abhijit Limaye. Sir, this is with regarding to the electrical equipment wise test details, because you are an expert in panels, switchgears and everything. I would like to invite you to the requisite form. I think it's a form 3 that we will go. I will go to that
Yeah.
form 3.
Form 3.
How?
So which part of Form 3?
Regulation under regulation.
Okay, that the one related to panels. Okay.
Panel is just because it's a very big
Understood.
thing. You can
No problem.
restrict to.
You can just go to that because specifically.
Yes. I will go.
So before we start this, one thing that Sai sir had very nicely pointed out was a clause called abatement. So when it comes to an electrical designer or electrical consultant, you have to design your specifications in such a way that to achieve the best electrical safety. So when we talk about panels, anything that goes into the panels has to be in compliance with the relevant product standard as well as the relevant installation standards. So as CA regulations have mandated the National Electric Code and National Building Code, all your panels also have to be in compliance to the installation. So the NEC talks about a lot of different sections for different type of buildings or for industrial buildings. So even your panels have to be in compliance with that. So when we look at the panels, in terms of the location of panels, there is also a clause which talks about having panels in an area where there is no inflammable material around. So that is again a very, very important part. When we talk about sizing of a panel, it has to be based on a lot of parameters, whether it is the temperature, whether it is the ventilation available in terms of the panels, whether it could also be related to the power quality that is present on the site. So a lot of things need to be understood when we talk about the size and current and ratings. Again, the suitability also, there has to be a study carried out by either the panel manufacturer or the specifier for it. And I would say the document also has to be available with the consumer so that this verification can be made. Because we see a lot of times that the panels, the consumers might feel that they are oversized, but the designer takes some safety margins as well as certain constraints to arrive at this, and this data also has to be available with the consumer to ensure that he's making the right selection. So if you can just scroll down a little bit into the next page.
Okay, thank you,
So
Abhijit.
one more part I'll just like to
Yes.
insist on this. So then just if you can scroll down to that one page, there is one more point I'd like to make on this.
Form 3.
Form 3. So Form 3 Part 7. There is one more part. I'll just like to
Okay.
add a small. So just little up.
Little
So
up.
again, about clearances, I think there is a very clear
Yes.
thing about regulation. So frontal clearance of 1 meter and rear clearance of greater than 750. So just one. I'll just do one next page if you can go. Just
For
one.
down. You want me
Yeah,
to go down?
just down. Yeah. So the point 6, when we talk about IP protection of panels, this is a part which is very, very important for electrical safety. There are lot of installations like specifically where I work in textile, in steel, where you will have fine dust going in the air, which can deposit inside the panel, and there is a chance for a fire hazard. So a lot of times the IP protection, the conventional panels in the market go with an IP protection IP4X, but you need to have the IP protection which is in line with the installation. So you might have to go for a panel which is, let's say, IP54, which is kind of dust proof, or you might have to go for even protections like IP65, making it liquid proof. So that has to comply in line with the installation standards which go with that. I think more or less the other parts, there are very clear regulations in the itself.
Yes, I will go to that regulation, but
No.
I think it's regulation 39. We will go to that regulation.
Yeah, exactly, sir. No, sir, you were actually on the right part.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think
No, so that people will understand what is actually said in the regulation. I will go to that regulation. Yes, this is the thing I think you have.
yes, yeah. I think it is sub-regulation 3 in this.
You want this regulation or?
Yes, I think the sub-regulation 3 in this. This is thing
Okay.
that is.
Yes.
So this is
So this is
very
the thing
clear.
that
You
we
have.
people. No. Yes.
So this I think it is quite clear. You need to have a space of 150, so 1 meter in front of the panel. And when you're talking about rear access, either you close the rear access, have no rear access, or have it less than, let's say, 250, 20 centimeter. And in case if you want to have rear access, it should be at least 750 millimeters. Plus, you need to have a walkway so that a rear access can be easy.
Yes.
And they
Why
do say
this?
that.
This appears simple, but the practical problem is people do not plan initially,
Yes.
and they all want the electrical panels to put in the space available. It's not already planned. They come to the final stage and put wherever the space available. Finally, it will be rejected. There is no front clearance or rear clearance, something. So this seems simple, but it gives a major hurdle while affecting supply, and it can, in some cases, the supply was rejected, then additional building was constructed to accommodate the main panel, everything. So this important thing that consumers have to look into while planning their thing.
Right.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Abhijit. And would you like to say something about interlock and protection for use of electricity at voltage, specifically voltage exceeding 650? I think it comes under regulation 47. Can you put some light on this? I will scroll to 47 because I want to get some input from you as a switchgear person. Please.
No, that's not 47.
47. I think, is it 47?
Yes, we are not.
Yes.
Not
Ah,
this is next. I think
yes. Yes.
When we talk about these interlocks, specifically one of the basic principles what we follow in terms of switchgear is always break before make. So I'll just take a very simple example where we have two sources, a transformer and a backup source like a generator. So anytime before switching on the generator supply or generator breaker, you always have to make sure that the mains is disconnected. And even when switching back, the DG has to be disconnected first before switching on to mains. Now, these days, we have provisions like automatic transfer switching. So, where this is very, very important that it has to detect and there has to be an interlock where the two supplies which are not supposed to be parallel. Uh, the primary supply should get disconnected before the secondary supply can be started. Now, I think the subregulation 1 and 2 are predominantly related to medium voltage, where we have earth switches to ensure to I think discharge the cables. Predominantly, in that case, there is always an interlock between the breaker or the isolator and the earth switch, so that they cannot be switched on. So you can have a mechanical interlock between them through a mechanism, so that you, in case if you are using a breaker, you cannot rack in when there's an earth switch, or in case you have the breaker already racked in, you cannot make earth switch on this. So typically these days it is related more to medium voltage. And when it comes to typically multiple generators, you have to balance it out in a very particular way, because two generators which are not supposed to be started together should have an interlock, that again what I said, break before make. So please please open the supply and then make the other supply. So there's always has to be a small transition delay. It could be in a small milliseconds, and also the equipments downstream also have to withstand it. And because of this fundamental, a lot of times you might have to install emergency supplies also downstream to have a compliance with this regulation. You can just
Okay.
go to the on this.
Yeah, this is actually, this is one provision under
Right.
Regulation 47(6). What it says is, where two or more generators operate in parallel and neutral switching is adopted. So
Correct.
previously there were some harmonies, some other issues.
Right.
Now generator winding have all improved. So what the regulation says, when neutral switching is adopted to ensure that all breaker cannot be closed. So these are the logic. This becomes a very cumbersome task in the actual execution. Some
True.
failure of neutral opening and these things occur. So the regulation, that's why it says it is not a mandatory. If you prefer neutral switching, you adopt these measures. Otherwise, you can adopt when two or more generators. You can adopt IS 3043 circuit and 732 circuit are already there. That is single point earthing. So people hesitate to provide a single point earthing to have a common referencing that will avoid so many uh, flaws in the downstream installations. And that's what we can infer from this interlock. Thank you, Mr.
Right.
Abhijit. Now I would like to invite Mr. Hemant Saleh. Saleh ji.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah. Sir, with the introduction of so many renewable energy sources and generating plants, we require its installation and its permission. Could you throw some light on this mandatory provision that requires permission from implementers?
Can you go to that regulation?
Regulation 34, I would like to say. It is. Yeah.
Yeah. So this regulation tells us about what comes in the purview of electrical inspector. from the point of view of safety of operation of generating sets or the power resources from renewable energy like that. So here it is not flatly they have given any authority electrical inspectors to go and inspect all generators or power generating resources. That power has been left with the state government. State government has to decide to what capacity generators shall be checked and tested and got approved from the electrical inspector. Uh, Actually, from the point of view of safety, we cannot say that 5 kVA generator cannot impose any life risk to any person, but still there is such provision to reduce the number of, maybe it's because of time delay and because depending on the capacity of genset, they might be feeling that smaller generator are not to that risk. But here
Okay.
it comes under the power of government, where which generators have to be inspected. Like Maharashtra, they have set a limit of 200 kVA, 200 kW. I mean, that is 250 kVA generators and above that have got to be inspected from electrical inspector. But
Okay.
of course, it is not that remaining generators are not required to be inspected. That comes under the purview of chartered electrical safety engineer or your regular inspection. Only
Yes,
this
sir.
is related to the permission before commissioning.
Yes, as you said, any installation requires, because ultimately, finally, in the end voltage will be 240 volt that kills a person. So it is irrespective of capacity to provide administration to implementation. There should be a clear-cut line. That is why here the regulation provides capacity. In other areas, it provides voltage. Here, it provides capacity.
Yes.
This is to benefit the renewable energy sources we require to be getting energized, so that all the small things cannot be directly coming under the purview of electrical inspectors that may consume time and make a hindrance to the capacity addition. So they have given the powers to the state government itself to provide to fix a capacity above which the electrical. But as you said, below is also to be inspected under competent electrical safety. Thank you, Mr. Ramaswamy.
Yeah,
I
yes, sir.
would again,
Just one more thing, sir. I just want to add here. If
Yes.
you see regulation number 47, sub-regulation number 2, that tells us something about requirement in respect of generators. They say that if generator is above 100 kVA, certain requirements are there. If it's about 1000 kVA, again, certain requirements are there. Like earth leakage relay or differential relay, something like that requirement is given. But see, 100 kVA generator or 1000 kVA generator need not be a HT generator. All these provisions which have come under 47.2 apply to the HV installation, that is installation above 650 volt. So there is some confusion. Actually, I have pointed out this this point to the CA also. Let us see what they give the decision about that.
so that
What
is
is
with
your
regard
opinion,
to
sir?
the
What is
earth
your opinion, sir, about
leakage.
that? I just wanted to know.
No. It's earth fault relay that requires. Okay, we will discuss later on that. Because initially we have been discussing a lot about the regulation, and now that it has been fine-tuned everywhere, and still some things can be there that we have to take into account, and we can send amendment. They are positive in providing some amendment also for the when it goes beyond implementation or goes beyond the standards, then we have to get it corrected. We hope so. Then I will come again to you, sir, regarding regulation 37, because the breaker, it's a new point. Whatever the irrespective of capacity of transformer, there should be a breaker at the point of supply and use of energy.
Well,
There should be a breaker. So this makes recently the consumers whether I have to provide a breaker for even 250 kV transformer, etc. So this is the thing, but any change will be tending towards the fine tuning of safety. What do you say about this specific
yes,
provision?
sir. Yes, sir.
of
So previously it was relating to aggregate capacity. If it exceeds about 1000 kVA, then these things were applicable. Now, it irrespective of capacity, they have set this condition to be complied at the point of supply. One thing, if we consider from the perspective of supply companies, if we don't have proper, tripping device at the source of supply placed by the consumer, the supply may pass on to the substation and that may affect the more area. So I think this could be the requirement given from the supply companies that there should be a breaker at the point of supply so that it will be safer that their tripping in the substation may not occur. So this could be the reason. But again, for this, suppose for 100 kVA transformer, if you need to install a VCB, so financially it is very, very, burden to the consumers, and in the such cost goes above the cost of transformers. So this is again the point. This again I have sent to CA also for reconsideration. Let us see what happens.
Actually, we should say that on the point of safety, this should be adhered to because previously
Of
there
course,
was
sir. There is
previously
nothing more than safety. So it
yes.
is most important thing. Yes, sir.
Yes, for example, there are so many oil switch fuses and load breaks. So many things have come into existence because of this. This is there is no confusion. Previously, there were so many norms up to 11 kV, up to this transformer capacity, you provide a breaker, so and so. Here it is so clear that if you want to have a 11 kV supply and above, you provide a breaker. There ends the matter. There is no discussion, no argument. When you once you provide a breaker, then the safety of the entire installation is inbuilt, not
Right.
from the LT side alone. From the ST side also, you are having a provision. So it's an important amendment, though it may, as you said, be a costly affair. Thank you. And I would like to say one more thing from you regarding similar to this. Whenever a change is provided in the regulation, then it becomes a practical difficulty. Such a thing is 38, that is bus bar trunking in multi-story building installations. I will show you that. For the multi-story building so far, this is regulation 38. The
Yes.
regulation 38, they provide, so this is a provision applicable for all multi-story building because of so many fire occurring in the recent past. They
Yes.
have insisted, irrespective of the type of building, you provide a bus bar trunking system for the rising beam. This makes a difficult compliance for the consumer.
Yes, sort of. It is difficult. See, this doesn't come under actually purview of consumers. If you see, point of supply is the incoming terminal of the switchgear provided by the consumer. So till that point, it is responsibility of the supply company to provide supply. So with this regulation, see the using cables within the electrical shaft, vertical shaft, that has been, prohibited nowadays for buildings above 15 meters. For this thing, the previous concept of meter room at the ground floor is not actually practicable, because for such thing, if you are going to provide a bus bar within the shaft, there has to be a type of unit on every floor, and from that type of unit, there should be the provision to install the meters on each floor. Then only it could be possible, otherwise it won't be possible. So here one again thing comes into the picture is because there is involvement of supply company also, because bus bar comes under their purview. Of course, the maintaining electrical supply, electrical insurance safe condition is their responsibility. So how they are going to comply with this, it is a question. So we need to think from that point also. But of course, this is a very, again, from the point of view of safety, it is very much required thing, and it has to be followed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I agree with you because there are two things here we have to opposing this. One is whether it comes under the supplier's purview or whether it comes under the consumer's purview. But the result is good if you provide, because people are not killed by heat and the shock in the fire. They are killed by the toxic fumes and suffocation. Stampede, everything occurs due to that. So it's a welcoming thing to have a bus bar tracking system. So there could not be any difficulty in having the right of way. Because of the right of way, your property and your personal should not be affected. Here, what is the option the supplier can have is to have the meters at the ground, at the ground floor level. And the consumer, all the busways, the trunking ways, ducts are occupied with a lot of cables, which you can find that it will be wobbling and it can be hanging everywhere. So it is cumbersome. These bus bar trunking are so small. It is something like 63 arms is sufficient for a household. Yeah, domestic premises, even it is a 5-bedded room, sophisticated flat, it can have its all connections supplied by 63 amps. That size could be about double the size of our LED tube lamp. This is not the bus bar of big 1000 amp, 2000 amps. It's a very small, it is slightly higher than the cable. It doesn't have any insulating materials or toxic fumes won't come. It is only a metallic. So it's a very welcoming trend. And once the people realize that, and implementers realize, or the suppliers realize that the public property and their life are at stake because of toxic fumes, this can be, this specific measure has to be adopted, is my opinion, sir. What do you think? We have to adopt it at any cost.
Yes, right, sir.
Okay. Then, Mr. Bhushan, you told something about the role of competent, designated person under Regulation 3. I would like to know from you the role of electrical safety officer under Regulation 5, because it's a thing that in our country, the role of safety officer might be missing, nearly missing. It could be there. I will show that. Mr. Bhushan,
Yeah.
I would like to invite you the role of say few words on the role of electrical safety officers.
Yes, can I start? As you rightly mentioned, sir, this very important provision that has been given in CEA Regulation 2023, Electrical Safety Officer Regulation 5, this has been completely, rather partially missed out by DISCOM and other authorities, because electrical safety officer having a major role of implementation of CEA regulations at the site and even at the company management level. So a key role has been assigned, and even in the factories of having a kilowatt connection of 250 kilowatt or more, this electrical safety officer appointment is made mandatory in the regulations. And what other thing that electrical safety officer has to ensure is the periodic testing of the installation that is given under his purview. So he has a wider role to play in the implementation of electrical safety of the company or of the installation. So I think few DISCOMs have very categorically mentioned the roles and the responsibilities of the safety officers, but few DISCOMs are actually missing the, formulating the role of electrical safety officer, what purview he has to take, up to what level. When a site activity starts, his intervention for safety is very much important. It is actually getting missed off. That's why the cause of this count of electrical accidents at site work is increasing. So, very specifically, the Regulation 21 implementation, handling of electrical supply lines and apparatus. In this electrical safety officer's role is quite predominant. If that has been looked at from this angle, both the regulations, then it will be a much safer environment.
Okay, thank you, Bhushan. You elaborated about handling of supply lines under Regulation 31. And the electrical safety officer who are already was actually internal electrical inspectors for the installation to check whether the installation has been tested periodically and whether inspection was conducted. So they are the extended arm of implementer in the installation. That's most of the places it is missing in our country. Now I am coming to again Mr. Sri Manuvarki regarding, because we have been dealing with the hazards from all sorts, whether it is due to improper design or installation or maintenance or verification. One of the important thing, the regulation 44 regarding the residual current device. Could you please provide some information about this point, because
Yes, sir.
it is not being observed even in the very luxurious flats in our country.
Yes, yes.
Please.
So like this regulation 44 comes under safety provisions for electrical installations not exceeding 50 volts, so LT installations. So under this regulation, the use of a residual current device becomes mandatory for any electrical installations, and specifically for domestic installations. A residual current device of 30 milliamps has been made mandatory under this regulation. The only exemption is for overhead lines with the guarding under regulation 76.
Okay. 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 Also, there is a provisional section under the. What does it mean for the domestic also? There is a provisional section. So, Manuvarki, I
Yes,
feel
sir.
that the residual current device is an additional protection, but the
Yes.
basic things, because after seeing a lot of electrocutions, especially in domestic premises, the regulatory body have insisted this specific
Yes,
provision.
yes. Actually, this yes. Actually, if the supply is a TNS system, there is no need for a residual current device in the installation. But still, depending on the nature of the electrical installation in our nation, the CE has made a specific provision as an additional safety measure in
Yes.
case there is a leakage within the installation. This RCD provided at the origin of the installation will render the installation dead and ensure electrical safety. I think that is the intention behind this
Yes.
regulation.
Right.
Yes.
Yes, that's what I also feel, because we can't always have, our people are so what do you call, there are always some errors of omission and
Yes,
commission.
yes, yes.
There could be some missing, and the earth fault loop impedance is a new concept. Once
Yes.
we ensure that loop impedance compliance, then these additional things are not at all required. But however, let us be
Yes, yes.
with abundant caution. Let us not take even a single risk, and if there is anything goes wrong with the integrity of loop itself after verification, it may be required. So there's no harm in providing it.
Yes, yes,
But
yes.
we should provide all the basic requirements. That's the intention of the regulation.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Manu. And any panelists, if you want to have any specific words on this before allowing for the participants' queries, I would like to invite one or two sentences from the panelists. Mr. Haman Saleh, what do you want to say about this?
Yes, sir. Sir, I sincerely feel if we really want to reduce number of accidents, I think precise implementation of rules and regulation, enforcement, and I mean finding out the responsible person and convicting, bringing him to the law, it is very, very important. That is not happening. And because of this, again, someone feels that nothing is going to happen and things are repeating again and again. So I feel there should be proper implementation of section 151 where we can put the person.
Okay. Now that after the lot of accidents, recent accidents, we have seen that flat owner, flat association office bearers, so there's president and secretaries are being arrested nowadays. So there are some changes in the approach of implementation also. Next, Mr. Bhushanji, would you like to say anything in addition to the your earlier opinions?
Yes, these regulations are already there since 2010. The transition from I rules 1956 to 2010 and the CA Regulation 2023, the key essence is still not dissipated to the discom level, specifically what I'm feeling here in the field. Yes, the major essence of periodic inspection, testing, record maintenance, and implementation of CA regulations has been missed out, and this enforcement should be done by government authorities at all the level, with through proper channeling from the top government authorities. That is required. This is
Okay.
the missing link. The
Yes,
you
yes.
know the compulsory thing is still not been implemented. So if that comes in picture, it would be
Some
convenient.
implementation missing is there because of the recently introduced. Let us hope that recently introduced CESCs will come into a full-fledged manner, and we can have all the installations are inspected as per regulation 32. That is one. Thank you, Mr. Bhushan.
Thank you.
Next, I would like to come to Mr. Manu. What's your any additional points that you want to say to the participants?
Yes, sir. Actually, the lot of changes has come in this CA regulations in the amendment, and a lot of additional burden has come on to the consumer to comply with the regulations. Already the amount of rules that are being implemented in our country, especially in the field of electrical installations, is very less. So the compliance with these regulations is going to be a challenging task. Even if there is a regulatory push and there is a push from the state governments and central governments to implement this regulation, it will be very difficult to do so. Especially one point was raised regarding the use of circuit breakers in the for every 11 kV consumer. So it is going to be a huge financial burden. So the consumer will be in the mindset, how do I cut cost so as to escape from this? That mindset will come, and he will compromise on the periodic maintenance of this circuit breakers. And what happens in most cases, based on my experience, is whenever a circuit breaker has been installed, it never trips. Only the supplier's circuit breaker trips because the consumer never maintains his circuit breaker and the relays will not be functioning. So those risk is there. So when these regulations are framed, I feel that a more economical approach needs to be kept in mind, so that the consumer also will not be feel overburdened in trying to implement this regulation. That is my few take on this.
Okay.
This
We are
case.
right. You are right in one way. There are different views among panelists, but I may also differ from both of you because recently I had an opportunity where a hospital, a privately owned hospital, he is my relative, he got 250 kV transformer station. The load break switch failed and it shorted. Luckily, there was no people involved in it, but ultimately the supplier's installation got damaged. They had to pay a penalty of more than the cost of breaker itself. So, see, the frequency of maintenance and the subsequent hazards will definitely be minimized. So, whenever a 250 kVA consumer are coming into picture, the project would also be economically viable. There could be some difficulties. Okay, let us see. Let us see the consumer's approach also. So, next, Mr. Abhijit, please put your views. Just within 1 or 2 seconds.
Sir, predominantly what I have seen is that while there are regulations, while there are rules, we do need to inculcate a culture among users to implement it. You rightly pointed out in one of the cases about the hospitals, where we now need to start seeing safety as an opportunity cost, where maintaining a safe environment not only goes into keeping your installation safe, but also it saves your downtime for a lot of different things. You're talking about breakers, similar things about RCCBs. What basically we are doing is we are protecting equipment, we are protecting installations, and we are protecting people. So unless and until an awareness or a vision or a culture of safety is inculcated, even having regulations will only go up to a certain extent. But this has to be taken to a next level, and there has to be a certain push in order to ensure that the right regulations and all the things are correctly implemented. There are some very simple things like RCCBs, like fire retardant cables, even simple regulation like having wiring through closed conduits is also not being followed at a lot of places. So
Yes,
there
yes,
has
you
to
are right.
be so there has to be a culture, there has to be a push from all ends, whether it is the regulatory bodies, whether it is the discoms, whether it is installers, whether it is designers. That is what I feel.
Yes, you are right. That is what we want to impress upon the participants. Is single point that everyone is a stakeholder. Owner has to test every circuit. Contractor has to certify, verify as per regulation, as per standards, and the supplier has to maintain as per regulation 18. So there are so many things where everyone have been vested with accountability. We should not think that I am not accountable, the suppliers. So blame game will not work. If everybody goes as per regulation, that we can certainly minimize. So finally, we have been seeing a lot of questions. I think more than 17 questions come. First, I will go through one by one. First question is from Subrata Kumar Bera. Subrata Kumar Bera. His question is, sir, the frequency of earth pit electrode measurement is not clearly indicated. Sir, we have already explained the regulation have now changed from earth pit to the earth loop. So because of our earlier preconceived, misconceived idea that earth pit provisioning everywhere will do away, will actually provide extra safety is wrong. You need not provide any measurement for earth electrode. This is taken away. Previously it was there. Any try day during a session, it is available for the supplier alone. So the answer is there is no frequency for testing. You just have a earth electrode and it is for referencing only. You test the earth loop impedance and this is for LV installation. It is applicable for the consumer LV installation. Supplier alone the earth pit electrode at the substation is required. Okay, then I will come to the question raised by our Mumbai secretary, Mrs. Pallavi Mukherjee. Thanks. Can you tell us any regulation which says about the electrical safety audit report format which is applicable across all sectors, please? Thanks from Pallavi. So the question is, Mr. Shali, can you please answer? Can you tell us any regulation which says about the electrical safety audit report format which is
Yes.
applicable across all sectors, please?
Well, as such, electrical safety audit report, this term is not recognized anywhere in the regulations. There are inspection reports which are given under the Schedule 2 of CA regulations, the Form 1, Form 2, and Form 3. These are the three forms which have been given. But electrical safety audit, what Madam is expecting, may be done as per the IS 732 clause 6, where it in details it has been given how the electrical installation shall be tested. But still, it is not clearly recognized by under the CA regulations. Of course, in a way, we can say that at some places it has been mentioned that the installation shall be tested as per the standards. So IS 73 is one of the standard, and as per that standard, you can use those forms, QQ, RSS. These forms are given in the IS 732. Those forms can be used for safety audit.
Okay, sir. Thank you. There are, Ms. Pallavi, there are specific forms available in the regulation that doesn't give all the parameters. You have to seek the verification measures that are all prescribed in the regulation. That can be applicable. We can't have a common audit checkpoint. It may vary from installation to installation. For hazardous installation, for swimming pool, or community flat or some other medical locations. It varies, and there are specific provisions in the NEC for medical locations. NEC is there, so we have to verify those forms prescribed in the standards as well as the regulation, and it's an art. We have to evolve. There, as of now, there is no mandatory safety audit. It's mandatory inspection is there. Mandatory safety audit is not there, but it should be a welcoming trend. There should be some safety audit because inspection doesn't happen. That's what we NFA have thought of is to provide a safety audit for hospital location where weak physically and mentally weak people are getting treated. So we NFA have evolved. We will communicate with you with the participants in our website. Thank you, Mr. Pallavi. Another question is from Mr. Sunil Kumar VK. His question is, I don't know how the provision of an earthing pit by the supplier will ensure equipotential bonding. For satisfying the equipotential bonding, the supplier transformer earth pit also to be connected to this. Yes. Sir, can you open your unmute your mic and appear, Mr. Sunil Kumar? I think he's not there. Anyhow, I will answer for the benefit of other participants. This is what we have addressed. The major impact of today's deliberation is regarding this specific point. So Regulation 18 provides, but we can't blame the supplier as well as the consumer. It's a coordinated effort. Unless the supplier provide, the consumer can't assess the suppliers. He don't have the right of way. Of course, he can test it using earth loop impedance. He don't have a right of way, whether the PME is there or whether the interconnection is there, whether the earthing is there. These are all beyond the scope of consumer. So consumer has to do his part of compliance and supplier has to do. As you said, sir, for detailed discussion, we have in our website, in our YouTube, NFE YouTube channel, lot of deliberations on this. That is basically relating to the IEC 61936 Part 1, where it has been specifically stipulated how it can be done, how the equipotentiality and the interconnection can be achieved with reference to suppliers installation. It deals a very big subject. You just refer that IEC 61936, which is neglected by all in our country. So next I am coming to our NFE member, eminent person, Mr. Ullas Vajre, an expert in inflammable insulation. His question is, violation of Regulation 18 by suppliers is the root cause of electrocutions in towns and villages where consumers are totally ignorant about earthing or electricity, but use class 1 equipments without earthing or RCD. This leads to electrical shock and electrocution hazards. Suppliers must provide safe power to consumers, including earthed terminal and RCD. If this is complied with by the supplier, majority of the electrocutions will reduce drastically. So this is the thing that we are trying to build the cat. It is very tough. We can't always. Everybody have their own interest, their own work pressures, everything. We can't dictate a supplier to provide RCD, to provide earth electrode. Of course, they have to check whether an RCD is provided, whether an earth electrode is provided at the consumer premises. But are we doing, are the consumers doing, are connecting their earth terminal to suppliers earth neutral? We can assure that 99.99% of our installations are not connected. We are deprived of equipotential bonding by this missing link, whereby the grid, as I have already told, the grid is having a very good supply overhead network, but it is miserably failing in an underground earth grid continuity. That is totally missing in our country. And the major contributor is consumer. Have we ever provided earth? Do we know that there is an earth electrode in our premises? We enjoy a luxurious house at a cost of 1 crore. We fail to provide an RCD worth of 3,000 rupees or an earth road just to bury an earth rod that is sufficient at a cost of few less than 1,000 rupees. We are ready to spend on a Benz car, ready to own a luxury apartment, but we fail to provide an RCD and we still depend on supplier to provide RCD. Sorry to say, everybody is accountable. And in the regulation which is there, you have to use your contractor, licensed contractor, a skilled person, and observe the testing of every circuit for which the owner is always responsible. Regarding this supplier's portion, it is also there. We have to work hard in bringing those also in compliance with the regulation. Okay.
So can I add to this point, sir?
Please.
Sir, I think this regulation 18 we should read with the regulation 43 sub-regulation and number subsection 2 and part 2 of that. See, it has been mentioned clearly that the earthing should be protective multiple earthing has been clearly mentioned, and in addition to that, the supplier should earth his neutral at the consumer's premises. This is the additional requirement which has been clearly mentioned. Previously, it may be earth, but now it has been made it shall be earth. So it is additional responsibility on the supplier to earth the neutral at consumer's premises. So if really it is followed, I think most of the accidents will reduce.
Sir, this is a thing. This is a challenging issue, sir. A simple 100 rupees link wire will do. They have provided an earth link after the meter board. Consumer can't provide his own earth terminal beyond the meter board. So this is in collaboration with the supplier. It's a simple thing, but it causes many hazards in our country. So there is no earth continuity from the consumer to supplier side. So your point is also well taken. It is in the regulation, it is in the standards, it is in the codes, but it doesn't happen either from the consumer side or from the discom side. And this is a challenging issue that we have to. I hope that NFV have brought out so many presentations on this, and we will try our best to have this focus to the top level of distribution companies. Thank you, Mr. Charlie and Ullaji. Another question is from Sunil Kumar. How to measure the fault loop impedance? I think any of you can answer, or we can, because we are doing this, the NFE has started the certification of fault loop impedance tester, and professional. I think we will be launching soon. So this is to sensitize the importance of earth fault loop impedance, which is neglected. It is there since 1968. It's not a newfound one. It is there for the past almost 50 years. But we are unnecessarily spending much cost and money and material on earth electrodes without knowing this. So this can be, you can go to our website, Mr. Sunil Kumar VK. You can please go to our website and know the fault loop impedance testing measures and the methods and the calculations. Everything is there. It is simply the voltage divided by the current, divided by the resistance of the fault path. The fault path is contributed by the supply conductor, and the return conductor is protected at the terminal, then the source. So if you provide a low enough loop impedance, then your fault clearing device will trip. So it's a logic. It's another subject that you can, you are invited to see our website and know the additional calculation things from there. Then another question, I think it is anonymous. Sorry, we don't answer to the anonymous attendees. I don't know who is there, but I will skip that question. I will come to the next question from Ronak Desai. Can you please define meaning of the same question? I think, can you define the meaning of self-certification? What is the skill and competency required to do so? Self-certification. That is the anonymous attendee. I think the same question has been posed by Mr. Ronak Desai. I will again read that question. Can you please define meaning of self-certification? What is the skill set and competency required to do self-certification? So, Mr. Shali said, I think this is related to CSS. Under Regulation 5, can you please say a few words on it, Mr. Shali?
Yeah. See, self-certification is a facility given to the consumer. See, as per regulation number 32, basically more from the point of view of periodical inspection, those are not happening because of so many reasons. This is a facility given to the consumers. They can get the installation self-certified if it is below the notified voltage. So self-certification has to be done with the help of chartered electrical safety engineer, because consumer is not a technically qualified person to answer the number of points which I have given in the checklist. So he has to appoint some chartered safety engineer. He should get his installation tested from him, and that format which is given in the schedule 2, form 1, form 2 and form 3. So those forms should be filled by the chartered safety engineer, signed by the owner of that installation, and that should be submitted. So that is called
Okay,
self-certification. So
thank you, sir.
required
Thank you,
is
sir. It is already there in the regulation under Regulation 5.
yes,
Mr.
it is
Ronak
clearly
Desai would like to invite you to see Regulation 5, and there are examinations being conducted across several states. I think Maharashtra has become one of the states doing a lot on this. And the ultimate purpose is to get every installation inspected, whether new or additional alteration, under Regulation 32, 45, 34. So all the regulations have to be complied wherever the electrical inspector doesn't come into picture. That is defined by the voltage and capacity. So this is all for our query. Next, I'm coming to another query, Mr. Rajaram Bhatt. His question is, if we consider front access panel with the ACB breaker installed, then also should be there still minimum 750 mm rear access for the panel. There are upgraded panels where we can terminate cable and access breaker from front without having rear access. There's a question from Sunil Kumar VK. Can you please, Mr. Abhijit, can you say?
Yeah, so in case, again, the 750 minimum rear clearance is if you want to have a rear access. As Bhatt has very clearly said that there are upgraded panels where you can have cable access from the front. In such a case, you can put the panels completely flush with zero access from the rear. The reason why we are having this minimum 750 clearance is to ensure that any bare parts at the rear of a panel have the minimum safety clearance. So in case if you're going to have panels which are completely flush from the rear, then that 750 rear access clause doesn't get applied in that case.
Yes, sir. Yes, I can't understand the upgraded panel where cable termination, access of breaker, everything can be heard from the from front. The purpose of a switchboard is to minimize the fire propagation from one chamber to another. The cable chamber should be separate. The switching gear chamber should be separate, and the bus bar chamber should be separate. I don't know how. If this basic fire propagation, segregation, and personal access are available in your panel, then it requires no rear entry. Then you need not have a rear entry. Suppose if during the inspection anybody find that what panel require a rear access, then there is no choice. So you just check it up with the manufacturer's OEM panel building with reference to these basic things. Another question is from Sunil Kumar Vikir. The interlocks are extremely important in switchgear above 650 volt due to the ring main system. There is every possibility is that incoming supply directly put into earth. Hence, additional warning boards are required. Thank you, sir. It's not a question, it's an advice for the participant. Thank you. Another question from Sanjeev Kumar. My question is regarding electrical clearance of EHV lines, voltage exceeding 66 kV from a building and boundary wall enclosing this. Whether we should consider clearance if a person standing on wall or simply the boundary wall height, and should it be tangential clearance? This is the clearance with regard to the overhead line with the building. Shaliji, can you answer?
Yeah. Sir, it is the clearance is mentioned, whatever is there in the regulation is from the structure. It's not considering a person standing near that wall or like that.
Yes. Actually, thank you, sir. Thank you for a vital part that you have got. The clearance stipulated in the regulations are the minimum. You have to add the sag. If it is a vertical clearance, you have to add the sag. If it is a horizontal clearance, you have to add the wind force, take into the wind force. If a person comes with a rod, lengthy 10 feet rod, these are all interfering with the supply. This illegal activity, there is another provision where the supplier's land should not be infringed. If there is a activity from your balcony in the vicinity of 66 kV or 110 kV line, it's a violation. You are interfering with the supplier's network. So the clearances given are for the building with regard to and there are clearance for the roads, for the streets, everywhere. It doesn't mean that you can carry anything interfering with the line. Okay. Then I am coming to the next question. Subrai Kumar Bera. In case of generating station, earth pit electrode and the grid resistance measured once in a year. In case of oil industry, earth resistance measure once in summer and once in winter. Actual frequency is to be incorporated in 3043 and CEA in IE rule. So this goes a very big, long question. What is a basic thing available in the question is insisting earth electrode resistance or earth grid. There's a slight confusion. If it is a earth grid resistance, it is already there for the substation. We should not confuse with the earth loop impedance and earth electrode. For the substation, you have to measure the earth grid resistance and monitor it. For the consumer purposes, it is not required. He has also pointed out another issue is that earthing shall be provided 230 volt supply and above. What about 12 volt instrument earthing, including double earthing connection in the flame proof junction box? Can anybody answer this? Earthing shall be provided 230 volt supply and above. What about 12 volt instrument earthing, including double earthing connection in the flame proof? I think these words, double earthing, everything are misleading there. That we have learned a lot. We have to forget those words, double earthing. These are not there. When the voltage is less than 12 volt, I think you can check regulation 103 or 123. Abhijit, can you tell? 103 or 123 something. It comes for flammable insulation. And if you go at the 12 volt, it's extra low voltage. It all depends upon the environment. If it is a flammable gas, as gas mixture is there, you are not supposed to provide any electrical spark also even from a battery. So we can't generalize double earthing, 230 volt, 12 volt, we can't generalize. It is your question relates to a very high area from substation to the LT premises and to the flammable area. So it has to be dealt with separately through different, we can't generalize. For substation requires earth resistance. For consumer, it requires earth loop impedance. For inflammable areas, it requires very low leakage current, even unearthed system. So it varies. The ultimate purpose is to provide eliminate a hazard. And there is one more anonymous attendee. And there is one more question from Vivek Pawar. As per CEA, it is compulsory to use FRLS wire or another for point wiring is used 1.5 square mm wire or 1 square mm. Mr. Manu, can you please answer? As per CEA,
Yes, sir.
it is compulsory to use FRLS wire. Or
Actually-
another for point wiring, it is used 1.5 square mm wire or 1 square mm.
For any building wiring, minimum cross section of the wiring should be 1.5 square mm. That is clearly specified in IS 732. And regarding what was the other question, sir? First
Another question is,
uh,
is it compulsory to use FRLS wire?
Actually, in standards, there is no mention of FRLS. There is FR and FRLSH category is there, and I think it is mentioned in the regulation. Right?
Yes, 38. It's there.
Yes, in 38, where each where FRLSH is to be used and HFFR wiring is to be used. It is mentioned in the regulation.
Yes. It's there. It's a very lengthy
Yes.
regulation.
Yes.
Participant, please go through it because we are running short of time, and you can go through the regulation and simply adopt it. And I will come to the next question from our Mumbai President, Mr. G.S. Baveja. Sir, role of safety officer is very well explained. Bhushan sir, my specific question is related to who shall assume or be responsible for this role in similar organizations. MSME, SME, or even building and cooperative societies. That is the major contingent of NMOS users of both power, LT, MV, and sometimes ST power as well. Who is responsible? The question is from Baveja is to Mr. Bhushan sir.
Yeah. So as you rightly pointed,
I think Baveja sir is a president of Mumbai and Bhushan is a regional director of Mumbai. You can very long meeting with you and sort out this.
we can.
Then you go,
No, sir. In shortly, I can just explain.
Yes.
Sir, that is what I was saying. The important words are mentioned in the regulation, in which the owner of the installation is included. So everywhere, owner of the installation, the one who is taking care, who is doing the maintenance, or the supplier, everybody is held responsible for maintaining the safety. So if it comes to a smaller society, then the committee will come in picture that they have to ensure that the installation is maintained in safe as per regulation 14.14.2. Everything is followed as per 14.2. That's
Okay.
it.
Thank you. There is another question from Manivannan Ayyappan. Sir, this is his question is in word installation without RCB. I think this is RCD. Without RCB, the consumer's earthed terminal is connected to the earthed neutral of DISCOM. There was a leakage and a shock felt in consumer premises. This problem was rectified by disconnecting the interconnection between the consumer's earthed terminal and the earthed neutral of DISCOM. Please suggest correct solution. It's a fantastic question. This is the only thing where we both the consumer as well as the suppliers are doing lot of errors, lot of non-compliance. If the supplier is complying with the regulation 18 with the PME system interconnection everywhere, then you will be at liberty to connect your earth terminal. If it is missing, then you will be at stake. You will be forced to disconnect. But by disconnecting, by not connecting your earth terminal with the supplier neutral, you will be subjecting your equipment. Nowadays, we are having costly and fragile equipment, I can say, or power electronic device, whether it is LED, TV, or inverter AC, everything is susceptible to temporary over voltage. they can't withstand. You can temporarily avoid shock, but your equipment will be subjected. So the simple thing is you find the loop impedance. You have a loop impedance meter hired from your nearby contractor. Have it tested whether your installation automatic protection of MCB can afford, then you can connect. Otherwise, it will be difficult. You have to request the supplier to have his installation with good earth network. This is the solution. It's a challenging issue. You have to act as per the local condition of supplier installation also. So another question is from KD Kavaya. Sir, please suggest on which standard regulation the electrical safety audit should be carried out for industries heavy. The SR is already answered. There are no standard. Everything should be inspected once in a year by the implementer, by the regulatory bodies. There are electrical inspectors and competent electrical safety officers. Now I am coming to the next question from Madhav Aram. Please discuss more on as to how one earth terminal is to be actually provided an installation by the supplier and how it is to be connected to the earth neutral. As we see the supplier's insulated phase and neutral directly go to the meter, how automatic disconnection of supply could be achieved, especially in LT distribution, in case of phase to earth fault where the supply protected devices are mostly OCPDs. Based on my own field experience, I can say that for small transformers, approximately rated drought ST fuse is more than, it's a very big question. It's actually a guideline, more reliable than a circuit breaker. I have seen so many circuit breakers not at all operating for a fault down line for so many reasons, improper protection setting, auxiliary supply failure, etc. Sir, your question is a very big issue, but let us restrict to the consumer installation. As already explained by Mr. Manovarki, see, benefit of doubt, you provide an RCD. Actually, strictly speaking, if you measure the earth loop impedance and find your OCPD can act, you are at liberty. But as per regulation, whether you provide earth loop impedance within the norms or not, you have to provide an RCD at the point of supply. It is not your purview whether the supplier, I mean to say that you will not be affected whether the supplier provide a breaker or yes, a OCPD or whether his transformer is getting affected. As far as your premises is concerned, you can eliminate these things by providing proper OCPDs, design, verification, and finally an RCD. Suppliers things are many flaws are in the system that I don't want to comment here. Next question is from Mr. Kiran Patni. Any regulation for maintenance of bus duct in high-rise building? Mr. Abhijit, can you say anything, any recommendation on this? Any regulation? There is no regulation, but there are practices, established standard practices for maintenance. Please.
Yes, exactly. There is a standard for how the bus duct should be installed, and there is a standard for how the selection should be made. But I don't think there is any regulation which talks about the maintenance.
Regulation simply provide observe the standards.
Yeah.
Okay. We will come to, we will write to sir regarding any specific standards. Verification is there. Protocol is verification is there. In the regulation, there are verification schedule also. Please go through it. And for the standards, we will write it.
The NEC speaks about IC 61439 Part 6 as the standard to be followed for
Yes.
bus ducts.
Thank you. And another question is from Tara Dal. We are providing MCB and RCCB. Can we avoid RCD? I think it is for, if it is a domestic premises, you have to provide RCD.
So they are providing RCCB. RCCB and RCD is one and the same thing.
No, that is wrong. Because MCB, RCCB, so the terms are misinterpreted. RCD is a common nomenclature used for RCCB. People are accustomed to ELCB, now they are accustomed with RCCB, RCBO. So generalized it is RCD depending upon your load. Now you have a different type of power electronic devices, as I already told. Your RCD with type AC characteristic will not work for pulsating current. For if it is a solar panel, you will be having a DC for which the even type A RCD won't work. So depending upon the load, the type B is the only RCD which can respond to the different type of waveforms that is generated whether from our inverter AC or our LED TV, or for our laptop. So you have to provide RCD, a proper RCD, taking into account of your loads. Another question is from Magesh Rane. What will be voltage between neutral and earth in all electrical and electronic devices? There are no standards for this. You just observe the noise mitigation. There is a PowerPoint presentation in our NFE website. Please go through it. The referencing is important. We don't use earthing or several earth electrodes in airships or rockets or even hospital operation theaters. So earthing here is to have a reference, proper referencing for neutral and earth. Once you provide a neutral to earth with a TNS system after the UPS, if there will be a isolation transformer after the UPS. If you provide a TNS right from the specific transformer after the UPS, then there won't be any neutral to earth voltage. The wrong connection, by this wrong connection, you are subjecting your downstream electronic devices reference to another voltage. So this is the neck. It is only a neck. It is not providing a number of earth electrodes. It is a low frequency noise mitigation. You can go through our website. Another question is from Jaydeep Kamalia. Is having electrical shaft mandatory to have one multi-story building? Because in many countries, only stacked electrical room is provided and cables are passed through slips. Sir, we don't know about the practices adopted in many countries. There is in VD, for example, in VD100, you can see a simple thing. You just refer VD100. This is the regulation there. Just refer VD100. What VD100 says? You provide RCM. So it depends on country to country. Science remains same. The behavioral pattern of people makes things worse. That's why we have to abide by our own standard first that has been formulated based on our behavioral pattern, our equipment design, our system voltage. We can't have any foreign standard is not required for simple solution. Another question is from our member, Mr. Shri Kamalesh Kumar. MDB, DB and FDB panel should be type tested as applicable, or it is depending upon application. Why the panel builder is not displaying nameplate data on type tested panel? Good question. Abhijit, can you please say?
Yeah. So as Kamlesh has very rightly said, MDB, DB and FDB should be type tested. So the standard that applies to distribution boards is IC 61439, and all the latest amendments talk specifically about something called as design verification, where the design verification can be done by three different ways, typically through testing, through calculation, and through verification. Now, whenever a panel is type tested, there are certain amount of customizations allowed through where the application can be proven through calculations. So once the panel is type tested, you can make some minor customizations in it, and the same thing can be applicable. based on the application, some certain things can be changed. However, what you cannot change is you cannot change your dimensions for the modules. You cannot change the ratings of the bus bar, and nor can you change the hardware specifications in that. Rest all customizations are allowed, and again, those customizations have to be verified. There has to be a verification document coming from the panel builder in terms of how he has arrived at that customization. Now, when it comes to not displaying a nameplate data on the type tested panel, well, it should be displayed. In case if someone is not displaying it, I will always say that you should insist upon it. And in terms of, before buying a panel or before approving a particular panel, I would always say that have a look at the type test reports. One of the primary things you would have to look at is in terms of similar ratings. If the uh, panel specifications, whether it is the bus bar, whether it is the supports, whether it is the dimensions of the panel, the cable chambers, or the ventilation arrangements that will be given are matching with the type test reports. So once
Thank
you can do this verification, I think more or less things can be resolved.
Okay, thank you, Kamlesh ji. It is all the awareness have to be built with the consumer and the manufacturer. We have to, and once the consumer is aware, is known. Now only people are learning what is earth loop impedance, what is earth resistance. So similarly, there are several areas where awareness among the utility engineers are not there. They have to insist while ordering a panel, they have to insist the type test, and they have to go to the manufacturer's OEM site to verify those things are actually delivered to his site. So these are things that we have to educate to the consumers. Another question, I will come to Sanjeev Kumar. Last question. The last but one question is from Kathiresan Vaithilingam. Is there any state electricity authority approving early stream lightning protection? Normally, it is not approved. Technology correct? Yes, you are 100% right. This is what we are promoting. Stay away from the false claim of illegal manufactured product. It is early streamer emission is actually rejected in National Building Code. It is not recommended in any other national and international standards. Then, but it gains popularity. Be aware of avoiding those products which claim several things. We have specific blogs in our NFE website. Please visit them. So the final question is from Mr. Sanjeev Kumar. Sir, please, can you please unmute? Lakshmi, can you unmute the participant, Mr. Sanjeev Kumar? He wants to speak. His question is, for my question, still some certification is required. So these are all our questions, and I would like to thank all. Before thanking our panelists, I would like to request Mr. Gopakumar, sir, our president, and I should thank all the participants, especially our panelists who have put all their views, their expert opinion to the August forum. Thank you all. Thank you one and all. With this, we will conclude this session. It's a wonderful session. Thank you all for your cooperation and your